Welcome to the AI Daily Deep Dive.
Hello.
Today, we're jumping into the top 5 AI news stories that are really making noise today, Monday, May 5th, 2025.
And there's a twist here.
Yes, exactly. What's fascinating is that this whole deep dive, the research, the structure, it was all put together entirely by AI.
So AI analyzing AI news. Let's see what it picked out.
All right, let's get started. What's first?
Well, our AI analysis pulled out 5 sort of key areas. Things like politics, how we see each other socially, online content issues, some ethical debates, and, the big picture global tech race.
Okay, sounds like a good mix. So, story number 1.
First up, something from the White House's official X account for May the 4th, Star Wars Day.
Yes, I saw this one. They posted an AI-generated image, didn't they, of President Trump?
That's the one. Depicted as a very muscular Jedi Knight.
Right, and holding a lightsaber. But it was red.
Exactly. Red lightsaber, flanked by bald eagles, U.S. flags, and the caption, they're called radical left lunatics, the Empire.
And linked them to Sith lords, murderers, all sorts of things. MS-13 even.
Yeah. But the immediate thing, as you said, was that red lightsaber.
Because in Star Wars, red means Sith, the bad guys.
Precisely. So you've got this image meant to portray him as a hero, but using the villain's symbol, it created this immediate irony,
Definitely. Did supporters have a counter?
Some argued, red is the Republican Party color.
Okay, I guess.
But critics quickly pointed out, look, you could have used blue, green, purple, any other Jedi color without that baggage.
True. And this isn't the first time with AI images, right? Wasn't there one of him as the Pope?
That's right. It sort of fits into this pattern of, let's say, unconventional communication.
And it really highlights the risks, doesn't it? Using AI-generated stuff in official messaging, it can backfire.
It absolutely can. A very fine line to walk.
Okay, moving on. Story number 2 shifts gears a bit. It's about how AI perceives, us, specifically American men.
Ah, yes. This came from that social media experiment by Reimagine UK on Instagram.
What did they do exactly?
They basically asked AI to generate stereotypical images of men from different countries.
And for American men, what did the AI spit out?
Well, it was pretty specific. Think beards, plaid vests.
Okay.
And burgers. Definitely burgers. Kind of like characters from Duck Dynasty. Or maybe Larry the Cable Guy.
Wow, that's quite a look. How did that compare to other countries?
Very different. The AI's images for guys from the UK, Portugal, Italy, they had completely different vibes.
So how did people react?
It was mixed. Some found the American one funny, maybe even a bit accurate in a cartoonish way. But others, especially looking at depictions for other countries, pointed out cultural mistakes, like getting things wrong about Spain, for instance. It sparked criticism about AI just, amplifying broad generalizations.
Yeah, because it's working off the data it learned from, which might already be biased or stereotypical.
Exactly. And this isn't just funny pictures, right?
Yeah.
It connects to wider worries about AI image generation.
Yeah.
Like that case in the UK where a woman got scammed using really realistic AI videos.
Right. It shows the potential for misuse is huge and why we need those ethical guardrails in AI development.
Definitely. Serious stuff behind the stereotypes.
Okay, story 3 takes us into the murkier side of the internet, the shutdown of Mr. Deepfakes.
Yeah, this was a big one. It was often described as like the #1 site for non-consensual deepfake porn.
And didn't it have a logo that kind of looked like President Trump?
It did, a sort of cartoonish image that seemed to resemble him, yeah?
So why did it shut down? Just overwhelmed?
That seems to be the gist. The site itself posted a notice saying services were terminated by a key provider, leading to irreversible data loss. Relaunching, they said, is impossible.
And what exactly is deepfake porn, just for clarity?
It's where someone takes a person's face, usually a woman, often celebrities, and uses AI to digitally paste it onto existing pornographic videos, crucially without their permission.
Right, non-consensual. And this site was big.
Huge. Reports mentioned over 55,000 videos hosted and something like 6 million visits a month.
Wow. Do we know who ran it?
It's not entirely clear, but there was a report linking it to a 36-year-old guy in Canada.
And legally, where does this stand in the U.S.?
Well, that's tricky. There's actually no federal law specifically banning deepfake porn.
Really?
Yeah. Some states, like New York and California, have their own laws, but nothing nationwide.
That seems like a gap.
It is. This stuff really gained notoriety back in 2017 on Reddit. After that, major platforms banned it.
So sites like Mr. Deepfakes filled the void.
Exactly. It became a place not just to find these videos, but also where people apparently shared tips and techniques on how to create them.
Okay. That leads us kind of naturally into the next story, which is a different angle on AI-generated porn, a theological one.
Yes, this is an article from Christianity Today by Timothy Pickavants. It's titled AI Porn is Covetousness, published just today, May 5th.
Covetousness. Okay, unpack that for us. What's his argument?
Pickavants argues that AI-generated pornography, because it's getting so sophisticated and easy to access, including those deepfakes we just talked about,
Yeah.
often targeting women without consent. He argues it really feeds into the sin of covetousness. He also notes how permanent this stuff is online.
Is he addressing the idea of, like, ethical AI porn, the kind made without real people?
He does. Some argue, like OpenAI suggested, that AI could create porn without human exploitation. But Pickavants pushes back.
How so?
He says even if no real person is exploited in the making of it, it still objectifies people, even simulated ones, and it still fuels harmful, unrealistic fantasies in the user.
Okay, so the core is this link to covetousness from the Ten Commandments.
Exactly. You shall not covet. He defines covetousness as, desiring what belongs to others or creating these elaborate fantasy worlds in your head.
And AI porn makes that easier.
That's his point. It lets users basically custom design content to fit their exact desires, facilitating that slide into fantasy.
Does he bring in any deeper theology?
Yeah, he draws on thinkers like Augustine and Aquinas, linking covetousness to pride and turning away from God towards oneself.
And the consequences of that, in his view.
He warns it leads to a kind of disembodied view of life, detachment from real relationships, undermining human dignity, the imago Dei, or image of God, and becoming a form of idolatry, worshiping these artificial creations.
So a kind of spiritual isolation.
Pretty much. Spiritual darkness, isolation, being trapped in a false reality. That's the warning.
Does he offer any, solution, an antidote?
He proposes gratitude, actively recognizing and appreciating the good things you actually have, the gifts from God, as he puts it.
So shifting focus from fantasy desires to real-world appreciation.
Exactly. He argues gratitude redirects that focus, helps resist the pull of fantasy, and leads towards finding fulfillment in, God's actual design, not artificial substitutes. It's about spiritual renewal.
That's a really different perspective on the AI content issue. Okay, let's move to our final story. This one involves NVIDIA's CEO.
Jensen Huang, yes.
Yeah.
He's put out a warning, basically, focused on China's progress in AI chips.
What's he saying? That they're catching up.
More than catching up. He called Chinese semiconductor firms formidable competitors. He's warning investors and analysts that their rapid advancements could seriously challenge U.S. dominance in AI tech.
So China's investing heavily in this.
Hugely. Big investments, big efforts to build up their own AI infrastructure. And part of this is driven by geopolitics, right?
You mean the U.S. export restriction?
Exactly. Those restrictions on selling high-end AI chips to China, aimed at U.S. national security, have kind of pushed China to double down on becoming self-sufficient.
Which companies are leading the charge there?
He didn't name them all, but key players often mentioned are companies like Huawei and Biren Technology. They're actively developing their own AI accelerator chips.
So the restrictions might be having the unintended effect of speeding up China's domestic industry.
That's the argument. Analysts are now suggesting that by the end of this decade, maybe sooner, Chinese chip makers could be real global contenders.
And Huang's comments fit into that bigger picture, the whole U.S.-China tech rivalry.
Absolutely. AI and semiconductors are strategically crucial for both countries. China's developing its own AI models on its own hardware now, partly out of necessity.
And this could obviously impact NVIDIA too, right, if they lose access to the Chinese market long term.
For sure. It's a potential headwind for their growth. It's definitely something to watch. These developments in Chinese AI startups and state initiatives could really shift the global market.
Okay, so let's recap quickly. We had the White House Star Wars image controversy.
The AI stereotypes of American men.
The shutdown of the Mr. Deepfake site.
Then that theological take on AI porn and covetousness.
And finally, NVIDIA's warning about China's AI chip advancements.
Quite a range. It really shows how AI is, weaving itself into almost every part of life now. Politics, society, ethics, global competition.
It really does, and it leaves you thinking, doesn't it, about just how fast this is all moving and what the downstream effects are going to be. Where does all this interconnected development ultimately lead society?
That's the big question, isn't it? Lots to chew on there.